Here, I'm Jesse, I'm your tea guy. Very glad to be at, just having a Sunday afternoon tea time with you guys. And maybe the last live stream I'm able to do for a week or two, so I figured I might as well come on while I got the time on Sunday, share a little bit of tea with everybody, answer your tea questions, and just have a great afternoon. So welcome everybody, welcome to the chat. Hey Aiden, hello Nico, UK, welcome. By the way, if I'm looking at multiple cameras, just because I got 3 phones on 3 different sites. So if I answer a question that wasn't in your chat, that's probably why. Hello, delicious little man who's, tea is delicious. Hello, man who sells tea. I thought you said, hello, little delicious man who sells tea, which is a different thing. I gotta read these comments from the left side going to the right. Tea dragons are on their way. That is the case as well for all of our US customers. The 3D articulated dragons are on their way. They are awesome. Just like, look at how cool that is. Articulated tea dragon. These are on their way in stock for the US, and then the rest of the worlds are coming very soon. I think Canada next week, and then the UK, the EU and UK, hopefully middle of next month. So dragon is there. Welcome. Greetings from Finland. Hello, our friends up in the north. I would love to go to Finland one day. It's on my list. Maybe this fall would be really fun. I'm just worried about going if it's too late in the year, because it would be cold. Greetings everybody, questions over here. What are the tea pets made out of? So the dragon is made out of articulated porcelain, really cool. And then other tea pets are made out of different materials, clay, porcelain that has been glazed. So our new tea frog you can see on the butt, it's porcelain with a green glaze on top. This tea pet in a zither, by the way, is our new August tea pet for the new subscription box that's coming up in like a week or something like that. We're spending the whole week getting ready for this launch, which is hopefully going to happen first week of August for the US, EU, and Canada. If everything goes well, I believe we'll be able to launch very early in the cycle for just about everybody. So very cool. Questions over here. Thank you so much, Cass, the Fugler monster, for the pepper, for the lightning bolt, for all the stuff. Thank you so much. Questions over here. How do they? Can you elaborate about the fishy taste in teas? That's from Avatar Guy something. I will, but before I do that, I just want to share what we're drinking here. We're actually drinking the Red Pearl Red Tea, which is one of the teas that's going to be in the new subscription box. If you have noticed, this is the new subscription box sampler, which is part of what you guys are going to get in the next subscription box. And look at that. Oh yeah, all these amazing individual packets of different teas. And this is the one I was drinking today, the Red Pearl Red Tea. So if you are a subscriber, you're going to get one of these samplers, as well as a full other size box of one of the premium teas from here as part of your subscription. And I made a video on that just now, and so I'm drinking through the rest of that, and then we'll try some other tea. So happy to answer tea questions. Got a lot of questions. Somebody asked about the fishy flavored tea. I made a video about this yesterday about cooked pu'er. I showed you guys some of the video I took of my friend Dui Dui when I was in China. Dui Dui is my pu'er guy, and so he has basically a fermentation shed that he does the original, what they call first generation aging technique for fermenting cooked pu'er tea. And I mentioned before, a lot of times people say like, oh, I don't like pu'er because it's fishy. But a lot of times that fishy scent actually comes from either fermenting the tea poorly or storing it poorly. What is going on? TikTok's being an asshole here. TikTok is like, you're mentioning other websites. I'm like, I don't have the right to mention other websites. This is ridiculous. But anyway, so basically the fermentation, if it's done poorly, you get the fishy scent. And a lot of the reason why a lot of Westerners think, oh, pu'er is fishy, is because the only pu'er that gets out of China is stuff they couldn't sell. There aren't a lot of people like me that are like going in, spending a lot of time and energy, and then coming back with this very niche product. Even the pu'er, if you went to like a tea shop that say had 80 teas and it has Earl Greys and lemon sherbet and all these different tea blends, and then you find one type of pu'er, almost guaranteed it's not going to be good. Because unless the store owner is buying it for themselves and drinking it themselves, like pu'er is such a, like, you need to know the guy doing the fermentation and have a lot of like hands and eyes on the ground to know that you're getting good cooked pu'er, or else like the stuff that winds up into the market is just bad. Because once it's fishy, no one in China will buy it. So there's this immediate rush to get it out anywhere they can. Put it up on Amazon, press it into like little coins or humps, and then try to sell them in bulk, or sell them to tourists in China that don't drink tea. And if you go to whatever, Dali or Lijiang or Pu'er or Jinghong or any of these places within Yunnan where Chinese tourists come who may not know a lot about tea, and they're like, hey, how is this giant tea cake on the side of the road? $3. And then they'll just put some famous Tea Mountains tea on the name, and then lie about where the tea is from, and then sell bad tea for cheap to tourists that don't know any better. So all of this is to say that the fishiness is not really a problem if you have good stuff, but it's hard to get the good stuff. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm very happy to offer Duidui's pu'er on the site. So cheers. As well as my friend Yunqing's. Over here, we got lots of different questions over here. What chemicals are in pu'er that makes me feel almost like I drank alcohol? I'm not sure about exactly what you're talking about, but if you're talking about kind of the calming effect, like tea is interesting because it has caffeine, but also L-theanine. And L-theanine is like a calming chemical. So you get energy, but a calm energy. And so that may be what you're thinking of, but I don't know. It's hard to, people are like, what will I feel if I drink the tea? It's really hard to tell people what their body's going to do. Everybody's body is different. Cheers, everybody. Questions over here. Will you make all of the Chinese zodiac signs? I think you already had a few of them. So the first 3 years of the tea subscription club, we had 12 themed boxes, one for each animal in the zodiac. So if you're a new listener, you may not have even seen any of those. But the current subscription box, I think, is number 15. It's been going for quite a while. So we have all of those old animals up on the club. We have the rat from the year of the rat, which is, again, these rats were handmade. These rats were the winner of our tea pet competition, where the winner sent in a model of this gray rat, and we created a mold of it and gave one to everybody. So all of these tea pets are up on the website. Yeah. Great questions over here. If there are any other questions, let me know. C. Bromir says hi, welcome. Official Gravestone 82 says your sample is amazing. I'm introducing all my tea bag friends to loose leaf, and I'm hoping and making a difference. Sister Eye's daily tea has more caffeine than I thought it did. It's great. I'm always glad to convert. I mean, in my opinion, nobody in the entire tea world should have any beef with each other until all the people drinking tea bags are on Team Loose Leaf. And then we can start debating about stuff. But just the real enemy in the tea scene is people that, it's not even the people that are drinking the tea bag stuff. It's just like the collective ignorance created by, basically the Victorians, and the age of tea as it reached the West, not being done in any sort of coordination with Asia or the people that grew the tea or the culture that the tea came from. So, cheers. Questions over here. Debru Janu says, hi Jesse, trying to set up a tea area. I use a cheap clay pot to boil water and then pour tea into a glass teapot with tea leaves, looking for safe high heat clay pot to use on the stove. Clay pot to use on the stove. So usually in China, if you're gonna be boiling the water in a clay pot, there is like Chaozhou style gongfu tea where they have basically kind of like a charcoal pot where the teapot is made of clay and has a side handle, and it's up on a stand, and underneath the stand they put charcoal and light that on fire, and that heats the clay pot. That is not easy though. It sounds like you're trying to do something simply. Honestly, if I were you, I would just take whatever pot that works on your stove and pour it, if you want to make it simple, directly from that into your teapot that you're using to brew with. You should be boiling your water in a separate kettle than you're brewing your tea in. Whether it's an electric kettle and then your tea is in the gaiwan over here, or whether this is a teapot, that is doable. Another thing I've seen done, and this is again not cheap, not easy, but I've seen silver teapots under like direct flame. In terms of clay teapots under direct flame, or under like on an oven, I don't really know. That's not something that generally happens in China. Usually people just use electric kettles, or if they boil on the stove, they use a metal kettle. So I don't know if I can be of that much help if you specifically want clay, but if your goal is just to have a low stress tea time, I really recommend going to Target and getting a $15 electric kettle or whatever they cost. It's really useful. I just find it's like, I use the electric kettle for a lot of other stuff too, not just tea, so. I'm a big fan of your investing in an electric kettle. Questions, any chance that the sisterized tea will come in a larger size? Very good chance. In fact, they're already pressed and on their way. So hopefully, I think August, they're coming in August sometime. Within a month or so, we should have the big versions of the tea up on the site, which I'm very excited for. So that'll be really good. If you've already tried them and you know you like them and you want to just get as good of a deal as possible, they'll be significantly discounted as opposed to if you bought 7 of the 50-gram cakes. So here, I'm going to come back on and off of my TikTok live stream because they're repressing the thing with a restriction here. Appeal. How do I appeal? I'm trying to. Visibility restricted. I don't know what's going on, man. I just refuse to play by these people's games. It's ridiculous. I know, like, the challenge of doing internet stuff is like all of these platforms, basically, you know, I did jokes about this as an internet creator. I'm basically a serf. Like every day I have to wake up and work for free for the Lord. And if my Lord decides that I am good enough, I am granted plaques and, you know, different heralds and, you know, whatever they call them, coats of arms, and given privileges. But those privileges can be taken away if whatever I do interferes with how they make their money. And if I don't interfere with how they make their money, they allow me to do whatever I would like to make my own money, so long as if they decide to make money that way, all of a sudden all of my privileges are gone. So I will say that being a serf of the internet is probably still better than the old system of being signed to some sort of Hollywood agency and needing to lose 30 pounds in order to get on the screen. They just denied my appeal over here, so I'm going to get off of this live stream and rejoin again. Hold on. Boop-a-doop. And now I'm dismiss. I'm going to join again and see if that revokes my thing over here. Anyway, questions over here. Dinkelberg, can we expect to have the same selections of tea in the UK as other regions? So here's an update on the UK. We got a shipment through for the first time in a year. The shipment that we sent in October, which we were preparing from February to October, then sent over last October and has been stuck in UK customs until the last week of July, until like July, has finally cleared. And so we have one that came through. But the thing is, as you can see, the UK customs are so crazy that I just don't want to give any promises to anyone in the UK about anything because it's so completely out of my control. It is unlikely you're ever going to have the complete selection that everybody else has. You know, the customs just doesn't work. They don't respond to stuff. We spend months putting together papers and then they reject them. They destroyed 30 kilos of my tea. The UK is completely uninterested in being part of the global tea world unless you are shipping in from India, Kenya, Sri Lanka, or one of the former British colonies, in which case they have almost no controls whatsoever. My, you know, conspiracy theory here is just the existing British like powers in tea are using the fact, are basically making it such that customs doesn't have any interest in dealing with tea that doesn't have British people making money on it in the farms in the former colonies. But my hope is that soon, what I've done to try to fight the fact that the customs are so bad is I prepared a big ass shipment of basically everything I need for the next like year or something like that. And I'm gonna try to get it all in at once to the UK, and you'll have better selection by the holiday season for sure. If I can't get the shipment in, then we're probably just going to be in a world where the UK gets Taiwanese teas and porcelain, and if you want Chinese mainland teas, you have to ship them from the EU. Because I'm 2 years into this experiment, I've lost huge amounts of money trying to get the EU customs to do stuff. I've hired so many people. I have multiple customs clearance people that say they know what they're doing and then don't know what they're doing. I also received notification from the Chinese customs that said that we may be the first people to ever actually legally import tea into the UK from their port, which means that the reason why it's so hard is because no one's ever done it properly, which would make a lot of sense. I don't want to get too into it, but all this is to say that I am still thinking of the UK people, and as soon as the UK customs decides to put a list of things that they need on paper so that we can fill them and don't change it every 6 months, then I would be more than happy to get tea into the UK. And in the meantime, I just can't give any timings about anything. And so if we can't get the August subscription box in soon, I'm going to be sending it from the EU where the tea has already landed and everything is fine. So I really hope that we can get it going, because I know that UK tea people are great. Like, I went to London, I went to Oxford, I did tea events with everybody. Everybody was really into the tea. UK people had tea time. I'm like I'm really into trying to help the UK tea scene, but it's like, you know, at the end of the day, we're charging the same price in the UK we charge elsewhere, and it's probably 5 to 10 times more work to get it into the UK from like you know, just logistics and customs perspective. It's a total nightmare. Half the rules are the same as Brexit, before Brexit. Half of them changed. They change them all the time. We sent over the full original documents over to customs for inspection before we sent the stuff. We got the inspection, we got it approved. They sent it back over, it arrived, they said the forms were wrong. That's the sort of stuff that happens. Now we have to send them back. It took months. It's a mess. Anyway, not the point. I want to enjoy tea. And now we have to deal with my country putting even more tariffs on the UK, which again, luckily, this is the reason why I have the warehouse in Canada, in the UK, and in the EU, is that we import directly to there, so the customers there won't have to pay any of the tariffs. Only the Americans, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with the tariffs. But not the point. Blah. Okay, questions. What would tea would I recommend for new people, especially if they like breakfast tea? I recommend, so English breakfast tea and Irish breakfast and all those breakfast teas are made with a tea base. So that's like the tea leaf. And the tea base that's used is usually Cheeman red tea. In the West, what we call black tea, Chinese people call red tea. So the Cheeman red tea, which I have, if you'd like some, it's on the shop, is the tea base that I would recommend. So if you drink that, it'll be a familiar flavor, but it'll just be higher quality tea than you're used to. Just keep in mind that in the Chinese tradition, they don't add like, you know, whatever, different types of like orange peels or lemon zest or scented oil or anything like that. They don't add any of that. They just drink the tea straight. So I think you won't find that it's missing anything, but it just will taste a little bit different because there might be no like bergamot oil or something like that. Cheeman, and that's spelled Q-I-N-E-N. So that would be the way to do it. Questions over here. Tea resin's coming to the EU, not anytime soon. Again, the EU, I got a 3-star review on the page earlier today, which I felt kind of bad about, but I opened it up and it was somebody from the EU that was complaining that the EU store doesn't have as many options as the US store. And I'm just telling you people, it is never going to be as many options as the US store. The US food controls are pretty lax. I can import a lot more stuff. Obviously, it's all healthy. Like, I actually think the US standards are fine, but the EU standards are ridiculously high, and they're not made for like the way that the tea resins work. Because when I tried to send the tea resins to the EU, they required that we submit 1.5 kilos for sampling, and then they did pesticide testing based off of 1.5 kilos. But 1.5 kilos of tea resin is 1,500 portions. So to have no detectable pesticides in 1,500 portions is basically like medicine grade. And like, we just don't have the ability to like do a full, like, medicine grade wash of the entire factory of our tea resin place in order to make sure that we would be able to sell in the EU. And then, as much as I would love, I'm sure you guys would support us, but like, we're not going to sell the tens of thousands of tins of tea resin it would take to even pay for the chance to see whether or not it would pass. So I'm continually trying to figure out a way to get it in, but I would not expect it anytime soon. And I feel a little bit bad because, like, I did all this work to open up the EU warehouse so that it would be accessible, but the laws and regulations are different. And this is something I found out big brands do all the time. Like, if you go to America and you buy like Fruit Loops cereal, the stuff in Europe is just a different cereal. They just make a different one and put it in the same bag. But I don't want to do that with my tea, and two, I don't have the scale to source separate versions of everything for the EU just to be able to put it on there. Maybe in the future if the EU store grows, but I'm just like a guy with a small team and trying to figure out how to do this all legally. And most people are not doing this work. Most people are going to China, they're packing stuff in a suitcase and they're bringing it back. So like, it's tricky for me because I actually try to do everything legally. Let's do tea questions. I've seen Shimen being spelled Kimun. I think it's a romanization thing. Yeah. So also, if you see Kimun red tea, Keemun, that is also Shimen red tea. The different romanization things, if you want to, I put on my Fulbright scholar hat here as an East Asian Studies scholar. The different systems of writing Chinese characters using Roman style letters like A, B, C, D. These are called romanizations. And there's no one inherently correct system because the writing in Chinese is a character, and there are like multiple ways you could romanize the characters. The important thing is that you pick a system and you stick with it, which really, if you see stuff what you're seeing here is a romanization system from a previous time. I believe it's not even Wade Giles, because the one that is used in Hong Kong and Taiwan still is called Wade Giles, and the one that's used in the mainland is called Pinyin. And I believe that the romanization of Kimun is a British romanization that was made at a time before the standardization of romanizations, and I would be surprised if it wasn't Minnan Hua, like Minnan language, which is what the local dialect is spoken in Fujian province. All of this is to say that it is the same tea. If you see Keemun, there's no reason to believe it's any different than if it was spelled Chimen, other than the people that are selling it are clearly trying to give a marketing feel based off of like old British tea stuff going back and forth. It's a little bit similar to how you may have heard of bohea tea, bohea, I believe it's pronounced bohea tea, Bohea tea, which was sold in the colonial times here in the United States when America was one of these British colonies. By the way, thank you for that corgi, whoever who just sent the corgi. Thank you so much. To Goose Guy J, thank you so much. The bohea tea is actually liubao, which we sell on the website. So in Pinyin, it's Liubao, liubao, and historically it's bohea tea. So those are the same thing as well, as far as I know. So the romanization is actually quite interesting. This is one of the reasons I like tea, is because you get into all sorts of amazing, different, deep culture dives just from being part of the tea. Maybe the linguistics is only interesting to me, but some of you guys are still here, so. Cheers. More questions. Leo says, how expensive is it to get into teas? And the answer is you don't need to spend a ton of money. I generally say this: the most important thing about the tea time for me is taking time to make the tea well. That doesn't have to be with a fancy table and fancy equipment. Even if it's throwing leaves into a mug and preparing water, take the moment, create a space in your house that is for the tea, even if it's just a chair. Make the tea a thing that you're doing mindfully and proactively, so that when you drink tea, you have tea time. That might include inviting over friends as well. all that sort of stuff is more important than whether you're spending 20 cents or $2 or $20 on the tea. That is the, somebody's saying I'm forgetting to feed the tea pads. I'm sorry, I'll give a little bit of the tea pads to get distracted. If you are getting into tea though, I would recommend getting a sampler pack of teas first so that you can try a whole bunch of different types before you buy a lot of any of them. I have a couple samplers on my shop, you can check them out. And then and then I would recommend some sort of tea brewing instrument. Could be a teapot, could be a gaiwan. It doesn't have to be fancy. The most important thing from a quality of tea that you're drinking perspective is to do what they call cha shui fen li, which means separate the tea and the water. So rather than put all the tea in, say, a mug and drink directly from the mug, which you can do, but if you want the tea to be as good as possible, by having a vessel that you're brewing the tea in here, and then being able to wait the proper amount of time, whatever that amount of time is, different, depends on the tea, depends on your taste. This tea has already been steeped several times, so I'm gonna give it a little bit longer. And then to be able to take this tea and pour it into a pitcher. So if you can have some way of separating the tea and the water, that means a couple things. One, you get more steeps because the tea isn't wasting its tea energy over brewing and getting bitter. And two, the tea tastes better because it's not over brewing and getting bitter. Thank you again, Adam, for the heart. So the way that this works is, I'd say that's the most important thing, is getting a space and taking the time for it, and then having a little bit of having a tea sampler so you can try a bunch of stuff, and then having some equipment. If you want to spend $100,000 a year on tea, there are people that do that, but it's not necessary. You don't even need to spend several $100s on tea. You spend a couple $100, you'll have a great tea. You'll have a great tea hobby that will last you all year, and like you'll have the best tea in the world, and it's awesome, but it doesn't take everything. So, questions over here. Do you plan on keeping, this is from Ben Pasek, do you plan on keeping the golden pours on your site? Big fan. Yes, I am. They will stay on the site, and then we also have big cakes of them coming in August. So if you like the golden cake pour, you should try that. Veronica, can I order travel set through EU? Yes, if you go to the website, jessie'steahouse.com, there's a flag icon, and make sure that is EU, and you'll be able to see all the options that we have in the EU. We have several sets ready, and we're actually gonna have more of them come Christmas time too. So very, very good. Question over here. Hello, this Jason Bender says, hello, Wisconsin. I talked to a dermatologist and he was telling me that green tea is poison for your stomach and your skin. I love tea. I've never heard of that before, but I don't know. I think people both positively and I suppose in this case negatively overestimate what tea does to your body. Like, you know, I think I definitely feel healthier having drunk more tea than before. But I think a large part of why I'm healthier is because every tea I have is a soda I didn't have. Every tea I have is like a fruit juice I didn't have. You know, it tastes sweet and it's like, and it's very like, it's just like, I always like having stuff going in my mouth. And it totally fulfills that aspect of what I'm looking for in a very nice way, and has no calories and no additives and no sugar and no nothing. I think that's probably the biggest thing that it's doing for my health. I've heard antioxidants are good for, you know, anti-cancer stuff. Again, none of that, as far as I know, has been approved by the FDA, so it's not on my packaging, and I try not to sell tea off of the medical effects. Not that people on the social media care about that, because I've seen some pretty janky ads, many of them created with AI. But I would say it's not that oh my gosh, TikTok again restricting me. This is ridiculous. Maybe I need to put the stuff on my shop on TikTok. I don't know. I'm just trying to deal with this. But anyway, yeah, but I try not to oversell the tea as a medical product because it is not a medical product. That being said, it is good for you. Boken Sensei Yaksai, sorry, can't read that. Says, hey there, thank you again. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's just so great you guys enjoy the content, and you know, this has been a very unexpected journey in my life these last 5 years of making this tea page and, you know, becoming a tea guy on the internet for y'all. You know, It was not how I expected things to go when COVID happened and I crash landed back in America with no way to get back into China and my entire career kind of blown up, but that's the way it worked. Question is 719 Marcus, your Chinese is so fluent. Are you part Chinese? Where can I listen to your radio show? I'm not part Chinese. 但我在中国学了很多年，所以我的中文说得非常流利。But I lived in China many years, and so speak Chinese. I have a Chinese radio show every Tuesday at 3 p.m. No, 2 p.m. Tuesdays at 2 right now. Yes, that's right. Wait, Wednesdays? Oh, I'm trying to remember this. It's Tuesdays at 2 now. It used to be on Wednesdays, now it's on Tuesdays. Tuesdays at 2, live on 1300 AM in LA and 1380 AM in New York City. And I think if you go to 1300am.com or whatever the 1300 AM KAZN radio station is, you can hear it on there. Questions over here. Are the articulated dragons coming soon to the EU? Yes, they are. We sent a shipment over there. They're on a train heading right there over right now. They will be over there very soon. He is ready to join you guys. The U.S. ones are actually already being sent out this weekend. So they will be available, and I hope I bought enough to last us until Christmas, but we'll find out. I'm not sure we'll be able to get another restock in before Christmas, no matter what. So what we've got there, if you want one, get one. Question over here. Many World Sin says, I call BS. What's going on here? I call BS. I go through 40 grams of tea on my heavy tea drinking days, and it never makes me sick. Only cases in the medical literature from green tea extracts in pill form. Oh, I think people are talking about whether or not tea could be bad for you in some way. I don't think it's bad for you. I think that another way to put it is, if you want to be excessive about your tea drinking, I think the possible downsides are very small. If you're excessive about eating or drinking many other things, it would be far worse. So for me, where I kind of would like to have a plan where I can be a little excessive and not need to worry, I've never had to worry about my excessive tea habits, that's for sure. Questions over here. Buko Siyavasai says, by the way, I'm Turkish. I tried getting your tea sets, but it never reaches to me. Oh, I'm sorry. If you ordered something and had an issue with the shipping, make sure to email tfriendsupport@jessie'steahouse.com and the team will help you out with it. It may be, I don't think Turkey's in the EU common market, but if you are, especially, order from the EU shop. That'll be great. Jesse, I remain thankful that you were put into my YouTube feed. I've enjoyed every tea I've ordered from you. That's from Ucox. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the tea. I'm very excited about the August teas. And in addition to the tea in August, I'll show you guys, I'm coming out with an incense line. So these are, I have 8 of them. And there's also an 8 incense sampler, which I should have on the table, but I don't. But these are going to be our incenses, and the incense line drops in August as well. So we'll ask you guys, which incense should I put on? I have Indian Old Arbor Sandalwood. I have Ambergris Agarwood, and I have Etheria, which was a blend of incenses, including Agarwood Sandalwood, Angelica, Dahurica, Magnolia Bud, Siler, Xanthium, Stromeria, Mint, Hoitunia Herb, and all of those things, which was a blend that was put together. So type into channel 1 if you want the sandalwood, 2 if you want the ambergris agarwood, and 3 if you want the etheria. Wow. I will burn some of the incense. So, see how we're doing. The 250 gram Black Beauty will be out in August. Somebody was asking about that. So 2s, 1s, 1, 1, 3. Quentin Mason says you always seem to be out of stock in the UK. We got a shipment in from the UK that we sent in October, and it just cleared customs in July. The UK customs are the worst in the world of any that I've dealt with, and we have no control over when the stuff goes through. But we are fighting to try to get stuff into the UK constantly. 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go with 1 because it seems close to the winner. So the Indian Old Arbor Sandalwood. Very cool. And all of these incenses, by the way, I'm going to come out with an 8 incense sampler in August. So if you want to try like good Chinese incense and you're not sure what scents you like, same idea. They're going to be up on the channel. And then these individual packs of incense, you can see here, it comes with an incense holder. Like you can put the incense in the thing. But our August tea pet is also an incense holder. So I'm going to be putting it in the tea pet instead. Here we go. So it should be good. Sunday tea time, baby. By the way, if I usually say this right at the beginning, but if you want to take your tea stuff out and make tea now, this is my invitation to turn right now into tea time. I'm going to be on for at least another half hour, I'd say. There we go. Love it. Beautiful. And I don't know if you can see the smoke, but it looks great. What are the incense sets looking like in US dollars? So the 8 incense sampler is going to be $12, and then each of these packs are between 10 and 14, depending on how expensive they are. So the Agarwood and the Ambergris and the Old Arbor stuff is a little bit more expensive. And then stuff like Pine Cone. No! Disaster. Hold on. Well, I guess you can see how many of them there are in a box now. I tried to hold this up sideways and all the incense fell out. I need to get these all back in a pile. Those are 10. I think it's actually a great deal because it's, I don't really need to make tons of money off this incense. I just would love you guys to be able to have incense while you make tea. I found that like incense is, it's kind of like tea in the sense that like sometimes people turn it, they make it very, very, very fancy. A lot of that is just branding, honestly. And if you are in the tea scene like me and spend years and years and years doing this and can track down the people with the original incense material and do your own thing, like I think this stuff is really good for the money. If I were just like a startup that was just doing incense and had to like make my living off of incense, I could probably charge twice as much as I'm charging now. But as it is, like we don't need to make a ton of money off of these. So like 10 to 14 bucks, I think it'll be good. Great questions over here. Does the incense affect your tasting of the light teas or affects the teas aging on a shelf? It can. Like I wouldn't store tea in a room that uses heavy incense all the time. Similarly, if you're smelling a very light, kind of like light and fragrant tea, it could affect that scent as well. But I also feel that what I enjoy about the incense is greater than what I lose in the scent of the tea. And oftentimes I'll do exactly what I did right now, which is have a bunch of the tea, enjoy the scent, which comes in the first couple steeps, and then light the incense. Because a lot of the scent of a tea is kind of up in the first 2, 3, 4 steeps. And then in the later steeps, it's more just like flavor. And so I kind of like the incense coming in there. That's how I personally do it. Very cool. Dibrio says, are you considering Chenpi for the store? The tea oranges have me interested, but the most I can find local to me is sold as medicine and is unclear provenance. Yes, that is definitely true. And Xinhui Chenpi, which is most of it in the West, is sold as Xinhui Chenpi. Most of it is not actually from Xinhui. And so, but yes, I have been looking at trying to do more Chenpi. We talked to Jiege, our orange guy. Their harvest season is in July and August. There's a monsoon there right now, so harvest season is delayed a little bit. But the Xinhui Chenpi and the tea oranges, we're looking to do like a pure Chenpi coming forward as well. We'll definitely let you guys know if that happens. So, very cool. Viv says, answered my question. Great, I'm glad I did. Over here, the question, the silver chicken teapot in one of the videos, you have those on sale or just shows a private item? So let me get my silver chicken teapot. Oh. He is beautiful. I actually need to polish him a little bit, but look at how beautiful he is. silver chicken teapot. Pure silver, all made one hammer blow at a time into his beautiful, beautiful shape. I don't have these on the shop. I used to have a silver line on the shop, but then during the trade war, one of the Chinese retaliations against the U.S. in the trade war was banning exporting precious metals of all sorts. So we couldn't even export sterling silver at this point. It is illegal to export silver out of China, and I am not going to risk my whole company to break the law in doing that and risk getting caught and blown up my whole life over a silver chicken teapot, unfortunately. So if you would like things to be better, please, everywhere in the world, tell your leaders to find a way to live with everyone else. I think that would be great. Cheers. I'm gonna swap teas now, because I was already drinking this for a little while before you guys came along. So I'm going to now change to a yellow tea, which may or may not be in future subscription boxes, no promises, but I think you'll see some yellow tea coming down the line. Never want to overpromise just in case anything weird happens at customs, but I expect it should be fine. Here's my Beidang yellow tea, which you can see right here. Very, very nice. Beautiful. Peace one day at a time. Dude, I am ready for it. Whatever this has been, I've had enough of it, and I'm ready for everybody to try to live a little bit better together. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what ism you put on the end of it. I am uninterested in exactly what we call things getting better. I'd be happy for them to just get better. Questions over here. How much do you do for a short session? I usually say like 5 to 7 grams of tea is good. That's like between 1/5 and 1/4 of an ounce. But, you know, if you use a little less tea, steep it longer. If you use a little bit more tea, steep it lighter. You know, you can measure it with a scale if it increases your enjoyment of the experience. In China, like, you know, they don't necessarily, you know, they're not using scales. Some people do, but generally speaking, they're not using scales. So what you saw me do here is I filled the cup, the gaiwan, full of warm water. I let it warm up the porcelain, and then I added in the tea dry. Ooh, beautiful. And that's exactly why, because once you add in the tea dry, it starts giving off its scent, even though it's dry. And you can really just get this excellent scent and like make it part of the tea experience to be able to just like get one extra scent in of that. I'm gonna cool the water down to about 90 by just pouring some cold water into my kettle. Oops, I cooled it down to 85, but that's fine as well. And here's our yellow tea, very nice. Yellow tea is a kind of rarer type of tea. It's basically like green tea, but it has they call it a menhuang, or like a stewing or suffocation step to it. So like they basically wrap it in like a cloth and kind of oxygen deprive it for a little while, and that adds a little bit of funkiness and like kind of like flavor twist to it that a green tea would normally have. I almost say like kind of in the way an oolong is kind of similar to a green tea but different. This is kind of similar to a green tea but different from green tea and different from oolong. Very nice. It says a lot of the scent of a green tea, like a fresher green tea, but the flavor has a little bit more of like a twist in there. Yeah, like it has some grassiness, but also just like more depth and more body. In the same way, kind of oolong has more body than a green tea. This also has more body than a green tea. So, great. Questions over here. What's the simplest kind of tea setup for a tea noob? Your setup is overwhelming for me. Put tea in a mug and pour water in it and drink it and like blow away the leaves. You don't need to overdo it. It's entirely up to you and how you want to spend your time doing it. You'll get better results in terms of the tea like quality if you spend a little bit more time thinking about the tea temperature and how much tea you're putting in and all those things. But if you are completely uninterested and you just want tea, as I said earlier in the live stream to somebody else who was asking, the most important thing I think when you make tea is that you do it mindfully, that you're like, I want to do a tea time, I want to set aside 5, 10, 15 minutes. I want to make this a thing that I'm doing and not something that's like, you know, driving a car, drinking coffee I got from a takeaway. Like, take some time and have tea. That's what you want to do. Blaze Adoja says, Jesse doing live streams now. What? I don't do a lot of them, but I'd say I do one a month. Like, I've been doing this for a while. I'd say I've probably done 100 live streams over the course of the life of the Tea channel. Seems about right, maybe even more than that. I don't do a ton of live streaming though because I lived for 10 years in China where live streaming was born, and the live streaming industry is very bad for creators. It's like, I enjoy doing it every now and then to hang out with you guys and chat and do this sort of thing. And the moment I do about an hour and then I get off. But if the live streaming, all of this stuff about who they give the traffic to and how it works, and you see TikTok is restricting my traffic for talking about the fact that I spent 5 years trying to find you guys really good tea. Like, all of the structure of the live streaming is very bad for creators. It lends itself to very grindy type of work. And unless you make like video game clips or something like that, all of this time can't be used in the future for other stuff. If I make a great tea video, I could wait a year and repost it maybe, or I could share it somewhere, and like, it's kind of like a work. An hour spent making a video it gives me a thing I have, whereas very few people watch a recording of a previous live stream. And so it's very profitable for the companies that do the live stream hosting, but most creators, it's not actually a healthy lifestyle. And I just want to live stream because I want to stream and not because I'm being forced into it by a system. But every now and then to come on and hang out with people when I want to do it, that's the way I would do it. Cheers. I love the video of the centuries-old wooden kiln. Will there be teapots from that available in the future? I wonder. We did a collaboration with an artist in Doha where the kiln was. His stuff was wood-fired, not in that kiln. But we could ask him next time that thing is being fired if we could find a way to put it in there. I know they do fire it at least once a year. It takes a long time to build up enough stuff to be put into there so that it's worth firing that giant kiln. If you guys haven't seen the video, I made a video of this giant, like 100-foot long dragon kiln that is in China. It was a lot of fun. You can search Jesse's Teahouse Dragon Kiln. Should be able to find it. Questions. Link Horizon says, can you add some Subway Surfers clips at the top? I actually made a video way back where I was like, I took like Minecraft jumping around footage and like talked about what Going Futi over the Minecraft. Like, the idea being like, if you're gonna share culture in America, you need to communicate in the way the Americans communicate. And it was like this Minecraft clip. That was a while ago. Questions. Demon says, how much is your setup? The Gaiwan set with the porcelain and all the porcelain stuff, these are $68 for the Gaiwan, the cup, the plate, the filter, the pitcher, and I believe 4 to 6 cups, depending on the style you buy. The teapots are like $10-12 each, I think. The articulated porcelain dragon is $35, but like he's new. This bluestone tea table is $168, but there are other cheaper tea tables. You don't need a heavy bamboo and like polished stone tea table. But at 168, I still do think it's a good deal because a lot of Chinese companies ship these over one at a time from China. And so like shipping an item like this by air from China in a box this big, this is my old set, but this is the Jesse's Teahouse box that it comes in. Shipping this by air is like 50 bucks. So I put them on boats and I stack them on top of each other on the boat, and I have a warehouse, 4 warehouses. I have one in the States, one in the EU, one in the UK, and then one in Canada. And we put it into our warehouses on boats and keep them stored in our own place. And so the quality you're getting for the price is pretty high because I get as good shipping rates as possible. And then, yeah, that's pretty much all you need. I mean, you don't need a tea table this nice. You don't necessarily even need to get a full set that's as nice as the one that's on there. But yeah, but that's you know, we're also going to be coming out with more kind of like cheaper sets in the fall, and have like a very basic sampler with like a gaiwan and 2 cups and a pitcher or something like that. So like, just try to make it as accessible as possible. I feel like I've done a good job of making like the mid and mid-high stuff accessible, but I've done a less good job of getting some like lower costs onto there. And a lot of it's just because that the like Amazon competition is in the low, and like for low-end tea equipment, the Amazon competition is very fierce. So like people just fight down the price of all the low-end stuff, and I don't want to sell low-end stuff, but I do want to find a way to make more cheaper stuff accessible. Questions. As someone with a Bluestone tea table, the packaging is stellar, good thick foam on all sides. Yes, thank you. That's also part of the thing. We did a lot of research actually about how much foam we can add before the thing gets too big and is even more expensive to ship. But you don't need to worry about that though, because even if the foam does have an issue, if there's a product issue that comes broken to you because of the shipping or anything up until the point, like if you drop it on the floor and break it, that's kind of your fault. But everything before that is my responsibility. So if you guys have an issue with that, just email teafriendsupport@jessesteahouse.com and I'll send you another one. We had one of these that broke in the UK back when we didn't have a warehouse in the UK, and I just ship it. And I sent a guy a replacement tea table plus paid $80 for his shipping because that's the guarantee. So that's the way to do it. Question over here. I missed a question on Instagram. Hello, interested entrepreneurs here. Where did the business side seem so complicated? How did it start and have more people helping? How long did it take? I mean, I started so I was a tea drinker. I was always a tea hobbyist ever since I moved to China. I lived in China for 10 years, and I got really into tea while I was there. It was just a fun hobby. And then during COVID, I came back to Boston, where I'm from, in the US for what I thought would be a 9-day vacation, and COVID hit in midair, so I landed to find out I couldn't go back to China. My visa's canceled, my flight's canceled, all my stuff is gone. I used to run a comedy club in Beijing. The comedy club is dead. Basically my whole life blew up because of COVID, and it turned out to be 3.5 years before I could go back to China, although I didn't know it at the time. And so I was drinking tea every day. It was very frustrating. It was not a fun time in my life, and I decided to start making tea videos, and especially 2021, there weren't that many people making tea videos on the internet. It wasn't that long ago, but like I think I was one of, if not the first person to really seriously make a lot of shorts and post almost every day about tea, and the channels have grown from there. So now we have I got a small team. I got a team of people. We got 4 people in China now. We actually just hired a new person. Got a couple people here in the States, and you know, warehouse staff and stuff like that. So there's like it's a thing. It really has. It's been great. And my focus is, I try to focus all the stuff on just trying to be a good tea guy for you guys. Because when I was in China, I found out people have tea guides. Like you have a guy you go to when the green tea comes out. You say, you know, what green teas do you have? What's the right price? Hey, I want to spend $100. What can I get for that? Should I get a smaller amount of the higher tea or a larger amount of the middle tea or whatever it is? And you have somebody to actually take you through, like, you know, your tea stuff. And think that's a better way of doing tea. It just is superior. It means you have access to all the different regions of China. You don't have to buy one brand. I mean, ironically here, my brand is a collection of my many different tea farmers and small tea shops in China. So I'm kind of more of like a curator in that sense. And of course, I go directly to the tea mountains and find you guys the stuff. So yeah, Adam's saying, so you're our tea guy, I'm your tea guy. That's the whole idea. I think my TikTok handle is still at your tea guy. The original idea was just like, I would want, like if I were a tea hobbyist in the West, I would want a tea guy that does as much work as my tea guy does for me. And so all my tea comes from my tea guys in China. And farmers that I find now, especially now that the shop has really taken off enough that I can do this for a living, now I spend even more time over there. So that's great. Thank you so much, Goose Guy J, for the gift. I appreciate it. Question over here. Video a couple days ago while you were traveling. Will that thermos be available? The thermos is available, unless we're out of stock of it already. It's on the shop. Just search Jesse's Teahouse thermos, and you should be able to find it. We're gonna try to make more of them in the future. We just made like one production run of them to see how it goes. I think we'll probably sell out, and then I'll try to figure out, should I make it with like new, like not packaging, like should I change the art on the front, or like what should I do? I haven't decided yet. So if you want to get it now though, because once we run out, we probably will go out of stock for like 2 or 3 months while we're doing another production run. Questions. Does the pitcher ever get too hot to hold? Do I need to train my hands? The pitcher is usually not a problem. The pitcher, you see there's a lot of room and air between the tea and where I'm holding it up at the top. Slightly more difficult is the Gaiwan. A lot of people try to burn their fingers doing this whole thing. It's a combination of just getting a little practice so you can hold it by the rim, and also not filling it up too high. Everybody fills it up too high, the heat seeps up the front, and makes it difficult to hold. They're burning their hands. You need a little bit of practice, a little bit getting used to it, and then also just don't fill it that high. Like, you know, that's the easiest way to make sure you would burn your hands. It does take a little bit of practice, but it's like 3, 4, 5 tea sessions, you're doing it. It's not that hard. Questions over here. I know you typically enjoy teas pure, but have you had any masala type drinks that you enjoy at occasion, spiced teas? I mean, when I go to an Indian restaurant, I like drinking the masala spiced tea. It's in China, they don't really do that, and it's more of an Indian thing. My understanding is that the history of it is that the British, when they took the tea plant out of China and planted it in India, and then they took all the good tea for themselves, and the Indians were left with just like tea scraps and powder. So they basically figured out a way to make really tasty tea out of very low quality tea, and that's masala. Nowadays, you don't necessarily need to have super low quality tea in your masala tea, although because there are so many heavy spices, there's not really that much of a reason to put great tea into a masala tea blend, because it's just going to be overpowered by all the other spices and milk or whatever else you put in it. Cheers. But yeah, I have that like at an Indian restaurant, but I don't have like cardamom and like all this stuff on hand in the house, and toasting spices and spice rubs and stuff like that. I would actually, it'd be a good skill to learn, because I'm trying to go on a diet and I want to eat stuff that tastes really good, and spices have like no calories in them. But no, the basic answer is in terms of tea and the tea I do on my channel, you very rarely see masala tea. From Tavanda says, Gongfu equals skill. Even with no skill, we all start somewhere and you can make good tea. But gotta have the skill to not set yourself up for burned fingertips or get the travel guy one with the wood. Yeah, I mean, that's true. So Gongfu tea, this tea making style, it translates, Gongfu is skill. Technically it's Kung Fu, but in Chinese, Kung Fu is not just Kung Fu, it means skill. And you show your skill in everything about being a host, from the way you set up your table, to the tea that you select, to the way that you, pour first for your guests, and introduce them to your tea pets, and all this other stuff. All of this is part of the skill of being a tea maker. It's part of how you do conversations. Thank you so much, Goose Guy J, for the melon juice. It is it's just it's also part of skill in terms of being a host. So like, can you find interesting ways of conversation? How do you figure out what the other people want to talk about? You know, you want to recite some poetry or play some music or whatever. Like that's all part of the skill as well. So very, very cool. Questions over here. Tea question. If there was a Chinese tea you could afford to add to your inventory, but you can't or won't now because the tea would be too expensive, like $200 for a 100-gram cake, what is that tea? There's some teas I don't have on the shop because they're too expensive, but actually it's not even that. It's just like, there's a lot of like really old tea that I would love to sell, but I can't get the papers for them because like, it's hard to find old tea that also has paperwork that proves what it was like and where it was picked and all that sort of stuff. And the tea company has gotten large enough that like, you know, I'm not bringing tea back in suitcases. So I need to be able to present to customs what I'm selling. And that can get tricky if you have if the tea gets too crazy. Also, the other reason why I don't like have the more expensive teas on is I just don't think they'll sell that well. And so like, you know, but we do have to design custom packaging and everything and figure out how to make everything a really good experience. So, and then to sell a relatively small amount of tea. But if I had to, I would probably go with I don't know, like a 20 or 30 year aged raw pu'er or a 30-year aged white tea. We're thinking of doing a rare tea sampler. We're trying to find a couple rare teas and put them all together in smaller amounts. I mean, and some teas I would love to be able to purchase, but it's just not even a matter of cost. There's just I just can't get enough of them. Like I have the Borderlands tea that my friend Doi Doi has. He found a batch of this. And it's like 60 years old. And it's like the funkiest aged raw pu'er I've ever had. It's amazing. I drink it 2 times a year because I only have a little bit of it. And you know, he just doesn't have that much of it. Doesn't like once we sold it, we'd sold it all out, and it'd be a little bit of a shame because there's no chance we're ever getting any more of it. And so like stuff like that, I would say is probably what I'm thinking of. But maybe we'll do the rare tea sampler at one point, although it won't have the Borderlands tea in it because again, I have 3 cakes of it there, and that's all I'm ever gonna have in my whole life. So I'm looking at them over there, and I just don't want to. I wouldn't want to break that into whatever. I don't know how many bags you get out of it. 30 bags, and I sell 30 items on the shop, and it's gone forever. Like, can't do it. Pu'er and white tea for aging. Can't ever have too much pu'er, correct. An aged tea sampler would be an amazing annual surprise. That would be very fun. What are thoughts on Yunnan sourcing, quality sourcing, unless you can't speak on other companies? I have a kind of like a personal rule where I don't hate on any other tea people ever, never heard it in my life. I also don't talk too much about other tea companies. I just think that like, I don't know. Like I didn't go to their mountains, I didn't source the tea. I don't drink many other places' tea because I have so much of my own and I have so many samples that I have direct from the farm as well to try myself. So I just don't talk about other tea companies that much. Also like, you know, if I'm gonna talk about them, they should be paying me, you know, or we should do a collab or something like that. I'm never going to tell you I'm the only person with tea in the entire world. But I do try my best to get you guys really good tea. And unfortunately, the way the internet works is I work for free forever on the hopes that a very small percentage of the people that see stuff actually go to the shop and spend money. And so, like, unfortunately, like all of this work comes down to hoping you guys go to the site to buy some tea. And it just doesn't work if I spend my time talking about other tea brands. Because the work that I'm doing, I don't actually get paid for. The platforms don't pay me for this. You know, I think I'll send you a thing. I have like, a short will get 1 million views and they pay me like $34. So like, it just as a creator, the way these platforms are worked out is that I don't get paid for all the work I do. I only get paid if people go to the site and buy something. So that's kind of why I don't talk about it. But I also, like one thing I really dislike is I know that some some like people within like the high-end tea scene in the West on chat rooms and stuff like that will be like haters and will be like, that brand sucks, that brand sucks, that brand sucks. And I'm like, we're all tea people. I went to the mountain to try to find you guys good tea. I did all the work. I'm sourcing it directly from the farmers. If you think that there's another person who's selling a slightly better tea for $3 less, go buy their tea. Like, we're all tea people here. Like, I find it a very hater thing to do to like bash anyone else's tea brand, even if it's stuff I wouldn't sell. Even if you're doing like blended tea, like orange creamsicle, you do you. I'm not here to hate on your tea. It doesn't make my tea time any better to hate on someone else's tea. It doesn't get more people into tea to just look into the scene and there's a bunch of haters. I just try to be really transparent about how I do my stuff, and if you like my stuff, I'm really glad and I work really hard on it, and if you like somebody else's stuff, great. I'm not here to bash anyone else and try to pull you back by saying like, oh no, but no, I don't deal with this. Incense is out. Do number 3. Number 3 was Etheria, 空灵香. So this is interesting because the incense that we prepared, we worked with a master tea blending company to put together. Some stuff is just straight. Like what we had previously was Indian sandalwood. It's just Old Arbor Indian sandalwood. This is Etheria, which is agarwood, sandalwood, angelica, duhurica, magnolia bud, silers, xanthium, strommarium, mint, and hoitunia herb. And I remember we had a new hire at the tea company, Hua. Her first job with the tea company was doing the ingredients list for the teas, and she was like trying to figure out the name of all these Chinese herbs in English. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of gave you ooh, that's so good. I kind of gave you a difficult first task, but it turned out to be okay. Cheers. Poke that out. What does it smell like? I don't know why it smells like being in a. Smells like being in like a garden greenhouse. I don't know if I can explain it any clearer than that, and I won't try. All the incense is going to be out in August too, so I hope you guys enjoy that. If you are a current subscriber, like you've been subscribed before and you're subscribed right now before the August box came out, you will get a free 8 incense sampler. I'm going to give away a couple thousand of them, 2,000 free incense samplers to my 2,000 subscribers. You'll get to try all 8 scents for free. Because I'm just hoping that once you guys try them, you'll smell what I smell, which is it's so much better than the incense you can find in the States. The incense you find in the States tends to be sold at like, for lack of a better term, like hippie stores. I don't know how else to say them. There's probably some crystals right next to the incense. And it's sprayed with these very kind of like harsh scent chemicals. And so it smells almost like cloying and like sticky, in my opinion. Like, I haven't really found that many incenses that are sold in the West that I like after being in China where they have good incense. Now, in China as well, there's also, you can pay any amount of money for incense. Like I bought a giant box of sandalwood incense at the Buddhist supply shop across the street from the Okago Lama temple in Beijing. And that large box of incense is probably like, it's whatever. I don't know what it would sell for in the States, but it's like, it's cheaper than the stuff I'm selling on the site. You just get a lot more of it. But that stuff is a little bit harsher, and it's kind of almost meant for like, praying at the temple. And that sort of incense can be, it is very fragrant, but it's not going to be as enjoyable as incense it's meant for. In Chinese, they say 品香. Pin is like to taste or to try, to taste or experience with thought is pin. So you can pin cha, you can pin the tea, you can taste the tea, or you can pin xiang, you can taste or enjoy the incense that way. So very, very cool. Lots of questions over here. Love your long form content, really interesting talks and great people, and the quality of videos is amazing. Thank you so much. We're doing a little bit of a shift with the long form content. I'm going to try to do more content, kind of tasting teas and doing samples of that, and we'll probably do less of these like 20-minute long internet like subtitled videos. I really like them, but I just think there's only so many people on the internet that are willing to sit through 20 minutes of subtitled talk. And so we'll continue to do some of them, but just not as many, because they're very expensive to make. It takes a lot of editing time, translating time. Like they're very difficult to make, and we've just never seen them move on the internet. It kind of only hits our hardcore people, which so we'll have some of it for them, but we're going to probably be moving into other stuff later in the year. And more nature videos going on the tea hikes. Questions from Adam. You'd be surprised if people watch on live. That is true. I wish I had some way of doing subtitled or translated stuff live, but maybe next time I go back to China, I'll do more live streams with our tea people instead of the long videos, because I actually think it's great content. It just takes a lot of time and money to do all those subtitles and translations. Questions. Will you have more sisterized teas in stock? I only have 3 left, so I really have to cherish them. Yeah, we should be in very good stock situation in the States, at least. I don't know what market you're looking in, but we have more sisterized stuff arriving in Europe. It's either already arrived or it's coming next week. And we have another shipment of sisterized big tea cakes along with her other restock coming in later. TikTok wants to know that I'm still here. I am still here. So yeah, all the Sister I stuff we're planning on keeping in stock. We have a great relationship with Sister I. Her tea is great. You guys love her tea. I love her tea. I've gone there every summer for the last 4 summers, or spring rather. Every spring for the last 4 springs I've been there. I flew my whole tea company there. We had 14 people up at her tea mountain. We had all our tea people, the wives and husbands of our team. Everybody just had a great time there. So thank you, Good Guy Jay, for the gate to treasure. Appreciate it. Yeah, so it's going to be there. And generally speaking, we try not to run out. We probably restock from her 4 to 6 times a year. Just try to keep it cycling, so the stuff, by the time we run out, the next stuff has reached there. But we're not perfect at guessing how much we need, and also the customs. This is a bad time to be in international trade. The U.S. generally is a free trade nation, but recently we've decided to retreat from the whole world and no longer be a free trade nation in terms of importation. So lots of tariffs, lots of changes in the law, sloppy changes, not thought out well. Kind of like the political situation means the government goes to the ports and the ports don't know what to do. The tariffs change overnight based off of feelings, and so it makes it very difficult to do business now compared to previously. But we do the best we can. Questions over here. Are you wearing the 19 Zlan Seagull watch? Maybe the 21. I have an Archie Zlan 21 gem Seagull. That's what we're wearing. It has a stopwatch on it, so you can see the stopwatch. I got this in China on my last trip back. It was actually because I bought a watch in Japan, because I was in Japan and their currency has collapsed, which is good if you want to go to Japan and buy stuff. And so I bought a mechanical watch, bought an automatic watch in Japan, and I wore it around. I was like, this is a really fun watch to wear, but it's almost like too much for everyday wear. And I'm a dress down guy. Like, if you live in the East Coast or in New York or in DC and you wear a suit every day, like, I think it makes sense to have a couple watches that have like metal wristband and that sort of stuff. But I've always liked the mechanical watches, automatic watches, and I wanted one that's kind of more everyday wear, and so I got the Seagull, the Haiyou Archie Zlan, which is it's been good. I really enjoyed wearing it. I also try to make use of that timer mechanism to stay focused. So whenever I have a task, like for instance editing my video every day, I've gotten really good at editing these videos. All the videos on the site, if it's me making tea, I edited that in CapCut, dubbed it, subbed it, my whole self. But my problem now isn't that I'm like it's hard to make the videos. My problem is I get distracted, and so if I get distracted, then I just waste time. And so I start the stopwatch, try to edit as fast as I can and see what my time was, more to keep focused than anything else. Echo says, tea question, would the Gongfu tea tray starter carrying Getting case in the 8T Gongfu tea sampler pack be good for a starter? Yes, that is exactly what I would recommend. If you wanted to swap the 8T sampler for a sisterized mini tong, you could do that too. But the 8T sampler is actually better because you get more tea, you get more tea for the money. So the per gram weight, the cost you're paying per gram is lower with the 8T sampler because you get more tea, and it's $40 rather than 25, but you get more tea. You get 16 sessions of tea instead of 7. Questions over here. If not something a little bit smaller, like 2 to 3 cups, or just one guy one in a smaller cup, you could do that. The other thing is that for the AT starter set, yes. The other option, if you wanted to split the difference on the cost of the tea set, is the 2-cup 1-pot traveler set is really good. And I always say that's a great set to start with anyway, because if you use the 2-cup teapot set, it makes great tea at home. You can use it on a table, you can use it anywhere. And if you find you really want a tea table like I have here, then the travel set is still useful because it can be your travel set. You put it in a backpack, bring it to your office, put it on your desk in a different part of the house. It just doesn't compete with the tea table. They're two different things for different experiences. So that's what I would say. And the 2-cup travel set plus the sampler is, I think, 70. So it's like 40 and 40, but you save $10 if you buy them together. So. People over here, Kamran Kasar says, Jesse's tea sets are great. Ah, thank you, appreciate it. Adam says that chronograph mechanism. Oh yeah, we keep in time. In fact, actually, it's almost 2. I should get going. I have, it's a chill Sunday for me. After this, I'm going to Laowai Club of Beijing meeting. We have a little kind of club in Beijing that's all Laowai, which are the Chinese word for foreigner, basically. So when we lived it's all people like me that used to live in China and now live in LA. So it's always fun. We're gonna eat char, which is meat on a stick in the San Gabriel Valley, where the best Chinese food in the whole world outside, well, this whole world is a little bit much. Best Chinese food in the United States is in the San Gabriel Valley in the suburbs of Los Angeles. We're gonna go hang out. We'll probably play some mahjong. It's gonna be great. But yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Thank you again so much. Appreciate your support. If you want any tea or tea stuff, go to jessesteahouse.com. It's all in there. Make sure the flag icon is in the correct spot for you. We have 4 different warehouses. So if you're in Canada, the EU, or UK, you have a local warehouse that's already in your country, no tariffs, nothing. You can go do that. And then, I'm very excited for the sampler coming out. Again, last check on it. This is our part of the August subscription boxes. This 4T sampler, beautiful Guizhou province sampler with many different types of tea inside. I don't want to spoil too much about it because I'm going to be talking about it in the second week of August, but there we go. Have a good one. Enjoy, everybody. Enjoy your tea time. I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye.